this computer. Okay. All right. So what a trigger is it's going to execute something, right? At during one of these events. Okay. So for example, if let's say I insert a record into let me do the employees table, because this will be better. I'm going to alter table, and I'm going to go to the triggers. After the insert, I wanted to do something, right? And let's say you wanted to insert a record in another table or something, right? You could actually put in a query here that will make sure that it puts in a default salary. So for example, if you put in something in employees, you immediately put in a salary. So what I'm going to try, well, you have to pass in a value, so that this is a little bit of an issue, and I wasn't prepared to talk about triggers. But you could do something like this: insert into salaries, and I'm just making this up. You can pass in a parameter, which is going to be your empno with a default with a date of now, today, and an end date of now plus 365, which would be 365 days. And then you could basically give a default salary of 0. This will basically say that if you, when you do this, if you insert a record into employees, as soon as the insert is done, I want you to run this code. And so it will, in this case, it will insert a record into the salaries table, which would have the employee number, the 2 dates, and then the 0. There's a little bit of a formatting thing that I don't recall here that you have to put in, but I can find out and put it on Slack for you. You can also basically do it before the insert, after the insert, before the update, after an update, before delete, after delete. So these are all when you manipulate a row. Does that make sense?
So it's something like if I have put in some record, I can say update another table which is counting the number of records, or saying something like that this record has been updated or inserted.
Correct.
Whatever.
Correct.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, that's what triggers are.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. That sounds good.
Anybody have any more questions?
This is regarding dates. What I saw in the examples we had was that you have your standard MMDD YYY format of date.
Yep.
But if you have, say, time series data wherein which you have hour, minute, second,
Yep.
and you also have, say, a time zone included in that, is there an easy way to handle that in a database? I mean,
so your field would then have to be what's called date time, not date.
right. Okay.
So if you have a column over here, see how we have date?
Right.
There's actually date time.
Okay.
Okay, so you can change things to date time.
Okay.
That's first off. Now, time zone, database does not care what really the time zone is. What I mean by that is you can put whatever time you want in there. Now, the database itself has a default time zone for time functions. So in other words, if I'm getting the system time now, right?
Right.
And your default time zone is, let's say, Greenwich Mean Time, it will give you the date in Greenwich Mean Time.
I see.
Okay, that's where the database time zone is understood or is important. Otherwise, it will just insert the time zone in there. Now, can you insert a time zone into the date? I believe there is a way to include the time zone.
Because in R, you have a very well-defined date object in which you can actually have the time zone. So it takes care of time series data in a very beautiful way.
Yeah, so hold on, let me just take a look. There might be a format for it. Yeah, basically, I think what's going to happen is that, okay, if you have dates that are all the same time zone, it's irrelevant to store.
Absolutely. Yep.
If you have dates that are date and times that are different time zones, right? I'm not seeing a way to store it directly in the time zone directly in the database. In which case you would create another field that would have the time zone.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And then whatever my business logic layer is doing, I'll have to aggregate things appropriately to make sense of it. Okay, cool.
Or what you do is you store everything as UTC.
Right.
And then you can take whatever time zone you want from something else.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. That sounds good.
All right. Any other questions? So if you have no other questions, I got a question for you. What I know you like the videos and so forth, but in terms of the format, the flow, did you feel like you learned how to do SQL? And obviously, you need more practice. That a lot of this comes with experience. Do you feel that there were certain things that were lacking that could be used for improvement? What are your thoughts?
Should I go first, or does somebody else want to go first? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What I would love is, at the end of each module, give us a piece of homework, some really big data set like the ones you give us in the BAN and data mining lectures, a 200 MB data set, or, a 1 GB data set, whatever it is, and then say, find this out. I mean, that's where the challenges come in. So you have a big, realistic data set, and it has complicated fields, and you need to do all sorts of stuff to actually make sense of it and then answer a question from it. That I know those are hard to do, but if there was a suggestion, this would be the only
Yeah,
way.
I think two things with that. One is we put this together so quick that
Right.
it was hard to do. I think I definitely want to do that, but then there's also the delivery. What I'm going to have to do is use like the website to put in certain data sets that would be used, and then I could put some questions even on the data set, in that section of the website.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good idea. I've thought of that. What else?
I don't know if I have like a recommendation as much as I think the most impactful video that you made, session that you had, was the one, it was probably towards the end of July, and you just summed up everything that you had previously covered, and you just made it so quick and simple and right to the point, and that to me is most impactful, because if you just have like a quick question and just want a quick refresher, like that is the go-to, and you did an example of how it could be applied, and I think that was really relevant and really impactful.
You're the third person to say exactly that. I didn't realize how good that actually was.
It was
It
phenomenal.
was a little bit on the cuff just to recap, but I appreciate the comment, because I think you're reiterating what a couple of other people have said. That lecture was just great.
Yeah, and especially because I missed the middle ones, it was so nice to have a refresher midway through to be able to use as a takeaway, because it reinforced what we had already covered, but then you also mentioned things that maybe you hadn't mentioned the first go round. So that was just awesome. So I would say, if down the line, if you make this another course, like to just keep trying to do that, so as you keep going, the previous things don't get lost, it just builds upon. That would be very helpful.
I'm actually thinking of doing the same thing in my regular class.
Please.
I got to figure out the best way to do it. But if I were to spend literally, and I was thinking about to do it twice, one half in one class, one half of one class just recapping the first half of the lecture of the class of the entire 7 weeks, and then at the end doing another recap the same way. That might work out well.
100%, because I know